I'm the CEO of RJ Reliance. In this series, I'm talking with business owners, operators, HCM leaders, employees, partners, and industry experts about how work is changing. We'll look at people, systems, payroll, HR, time, integrations, operations, and yes, AI, but always from a practical business perspective. The goal is simple: understand what companies should be thinking about as they modernize how work gets done. Today, I'm talking with a workforce management consultant who works close to scheduling, time, labor, and the systems that help companies manage their workforce. We'll talk about what makes workforce operations work well and where leaders should pay attention. I'm on the phone today with Alex Kirkman. Hello, Alex. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Kirkman and workforce management consultant here at RJ Reliance. Every week's a little bit different because I'm supporting clients at different stages of workforce management. I might be helping one client implement new functionality, another troubleshoot payroll or attendance issues, or another prepare for production deployment. A lot of the time I spend translating business requirements into system configuration, reviewing testing, analyzing workforce data, and helping clients understand not just how the system works, but why it's behaving in a certain way.
All right, excellent. So tell me a little bit about, most of the viewers on the call today will know what workforce management is, but for those who don't, tell us a little bit about what workforce management encompasses and generally how that creates value for a company.
Yeah, definitely. So I describe workforce management as the operational engine behind an organization's person strategy. So what that means, it's a combination of people, processes, and technology that ensures the right employees are in the right place, right grouping at the right time when time tracking actually happens, applying labor policies and paying employees correctly. When it's well done, it improves efficiency, controls labor costs, supports compliance, and it just creates a better experience for employees.
Excellent. So when it comes to the workforce management systems, not only is it used obviously for paying individuals, right? There's compliance that's tied to it. There's operational drivers. So what changes for managers and employees when these systems work well?
Just a seamless experience of the system itself. If the system's not configured correctly or there are issues that they may find after a production system goes live, it can have downstream impacts on payroll, how employees are getting paid. And when it is right, employees are happy, retention is high, supervisors and directors are happy with their systems that they're using. They're not going outside or really entertaining the ideas for new sales companies or new vendors coming in place and taking over what they're currently using.
All right, excellent. And on the flip side, in your experience, what do companies often underestimate about scheduling or time or labor rules? So where do things kind of go awry in the projects that you're working on when it comes to scheduling time or
Gotcha.
labor?
Yeah, so I think the communication and data that's provided in projects. Communication, kind of a broad term. If one part of the organization expects the system to function differently than the other, such as HR, payroll, IT, or the operations managers, there can be gaps between how they expect the system to work versus how it actually works, how it's set up. So a system could be set up correctly, but the expectation based off of the communication, I think, is the biggest gap that employees have through these projects, or employers have through this project.
Yeah.
Clients.
So expand on the communication piece, right? So how does communication affect the outcome of these? I guess expand on that a little bit more, because there's obviously the business side, there's the technical side, and sometimes, there's people talking across each other in terms of expectations and outcomes.
Yeah, so I think kind of what I touched on before, just the expectations of the system, but the clear communication also improves the user adoption because people not just understand what's changing, but why it's changing, how it's going to impact the overall employee experience, how it's going to impact pay, how it's going to impact their financials with all the employees, their headcount, their FTE, right? So communication on how they expect the systems to work and function from the requirements gathering phase, I think, is critical to any project scope that we work on.
Okay. So moving into a topic that's near and dear to the listeners on the call today, which is the readiness and the future. So artificial intelligence, it's something that's being talked about every single day. Every post that you look at is talking about artificial intelligence and how it's changing things. But in your opinion and experience, where does human judgment still matter most when it comes to the projects you work on?
Yeah, definitely. AI is evolving like crazy in this industry. We see a whole bunch of consulting firms build out these massive AI projects, right? And so implementing that is crucial for the next, not even this year, but the next 5, 10 years as AI advances with agentic AI, having all these different processes really impacts how work is going to be done. Currently, right now, I utilize AI for SOP creations, documenting, assisting with creating test scripts. Now, AI needs all that information, accurate data, accurate information to be fed into it so it can output the correct information. So I think that's where agentic AI becomes really impactful in this industry, is to help streamline those processes, those tedious tasks that consultants may daunt on doing because it's like, oh, I've done this a million times and now I got to rewrite it. Where if you can feed it correct information, valuable data to help spit it out, there will always need to be someone who is going to have to review the work that AI does. So I think it's going to switch more from a implementation role that consultants typically take on right now. AI, I think, will take over that role, whereas the humans on the partners or the vendors, they will have to be the ones who are kind of the data engineers behind AI. They either have the tools, they know how to interact with the tools, or can explain the tools to the clients that are utilizing our AI tool for their projects.
Yeah. So speaking of the tools in and of themselves, again, it seems like daily there's a leapfrogging of the major vendors in the space in terms of their capabilities. You had Fable that came out and Fable go away on the Claude side. So what tools do you use, and do you use more than one, or do you predominantly use one over another?
So right now, I use AI very simplistically. I typically just use ChatGTP and Copilot, helping with document creations, really just making them look pretty. I'll give it a lot of information. I'll essentially type out the document myself, but make it look pretty, make it sound more professional at an executive level, so it's at a high level for people to understand. Now, going into that, I'm actually working on a side project with AI agents to be able to take data from past projects, not anything personal like that, but just policy related, to really let the agent understand how and what I'm doing and how it can replicate it for future projects, to really streamline, like I said, those tedious tasks with documentation creations, with requirement gathering documents, with testing documents. So really utilizing that to get the long, tedious tasks out of the way, where I can focus on really client side, helping them optimize their system. What can their system done? What are they currently paying for within their system? What aren't they paying for in their system? And really focus on that side so they can get the most out of the vendor that they've chosen.
Yeah. And you mentioned document creation, kind of helping streamline that process. Obviously, as you mentioned, with your inputs and certainly your review of that and fine tuning and honing that, are you currently or plan to maybe in the future use it for testing? That seems to have come up amongst the developers we spoke to and other workforce management consultants. Is that an area that you foresee, whether you're doing it now or you foresee some value in that in the future?
Yeah, so definitely creating test scripts. And I think that's where feeding the AI agents with the correct policy documents and requirements gathering documents to help build those test scripts. Because you can tell it a whole bunch of information and it might just spit out garbage. So currently, yes, I do use it to help design test scripts. But again, I'm not super involved with AI where I plan on being in the near future to be able to streamline and make those testing documents smoother. I do think with the testing part, as AI taking control of the testing, that we are going to see in the future. Now, whether that's going to be available from the vendors for partners to implement and attach to their systems, or if the vendors do include that as a system functionality, time will tell.
All right, so thanks, Alex, for that insight. So, what should companies check before they trust a process or system change, in your opinion?
They should check their data from all their systems. Clean data is one of the most important items for any AI to consume. And a lot of these companies have 5, 10 different systems. You know, I've seen companies that have multiple payroll systems, multiple HR systems, and it may be because they acquired another company or different department or location prefers this and they didn't want to roll it out. Regardless of the reason, having all these different sources where data is coming and going from can cause data discrepancies, and making sure that is clean is wildly important for feeding AI information to help streamline processes.
Yeah. So moving in closing here in terms of questions. So thinking about not only everything we've discussed today, but just generally the projects you've worked on and where they've been successful. What would you, if you had 1 or 2 items that you would tell a client or an HCM leader who's moving into either implementing a new solution or optimizing current solution, what bit of advice would you give them?
Kind of what we've talked about before, making sure they have clean data, making sure they understand their processes internally. Another thing I see clients have is they go through with a project with the understanding and commitment that things are going to change throughout the process. I've had multiple clients where they say, this is the policy now, but in 3 months, in the middle of the project, we're expecting the policy to change. We don't know what that's going to be. So understanding that those kind of changes and discussion points that they have internally can affect the overall outcome and scope of the project.
Yeah, certainly extend it, of course, right?
Yes.
All right, Alex, thank you so much for your insights. I really look forward to having more conversations around this. As I mentioned, there's a lot that's really changing in how people are leveraging and utilizing artificial intelligence, obviously, and that plays out in how these systems that support and manage people and payroll and processes are all evolving and changing as well. So these conversations we're having today are really meant to help business leaders understand what people close to the work like yourself are seeing, you know, what's happening in real systems, real projects, and real operations. So appreciate your time and look forward to speaking to you in the future.
Yes. Thanks, Rob.